Very good morning to all those who are present.
Very good morning, sir.
Very good morning, sir.
Excellent. So some of you are already there. It's, it's almost time, so we will be beginning in about 4 minutes time. Why do you need control? Let the control be with me. If you need recording, I am recording it and I will share it with you when you need it. As it is, I share the slides as well. I have shared the book, and some people had requested to uh, in, share the book because they could not find it probably. So I have shared the book in the relevant section where you can download the file from where you had earlier downloaded the syllabus. I guess you had already downloaded the syllabus.
Yes, sir.
If you are able to get the syllabus, you will also be able to get the book. It is in the same place.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And there is not thank you, it is my duty. If whatever resources I have, I will definitely share with you.
Good morning, sir.
Very good morning, including the slides. Slides also I'll put up there. But once the slides have been taught, or do you want it in advance?
Sir, please share it before.
Beforehand? Okay, I'll share it beforehand also, no problem.
Thank you, sir.
So I guess invisible hand is already clear to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We discussed it in the very
Yes.
last class.
Yes. So we will move ahead from that. There is still 1 or 2 minutes left. I guess let people join. It will be. So it is time and we will be beginning now. So basically problems in managerial economics are classified into two broad categories. And this is the theoretical part of it. So you have to understand that these two parts require optimal solutions. So those are those categories where we require optimal solutions. By optimum, we do not mean maximum. And this is a very important concept. So you must understand this.
India ಹೊಸದೊಂದು ಇದು ಎಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಅದು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ
Please mute your microphones so that you do not disturb the class. So when we say optimum, we mean where it is going to give you comparatively most in relevance with the other surroundings. So optimal sometimes is not the maximum, but somewhere else, because that is the ideal and required position. Please mute your C. Total, average, and marginal magnitudes, these require optimal solutions where they are going to give us the best. So this is one category where we look for optimal solutions. And the other one is where we require equilibrium solutions, where there is a balance. So when we talk of demand and supply equilibrium, we mean where the supply in demand is balanced. They offset each other. Whatever we supply is in demand, and whatever is in demand is in supply. Okay. Of course, we shall be working on these two, and we will understand each of these as we go ahead. When we talk of marginal, we mean that differential, and that is denoted exactly like a differential calculus with the same sign delta, which means a small change. We will be studying those as well. So this is the equilibrium that we were talking about. And as you can see, there is a demand line D. And there is a supply line S. And we have the two axes where we have the price on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis. When you look at these, you find that the price can be below the equilibrium or above the equilibrium. And when the price is below the equilibrium, let us say at P1, the supply line is at Q1. And when price is P1, at that same price, the demand is at Q2. So there is a difference of quantity Q1 and Q. Now this difference in quantity in supply and demand, because the demand is more and the supply is less, it forces the supply to increase and therefore move up. You can see the up arrow marked. And where does it move? Towards the equilibrium. Reason being, the supply is less, demand is more. If the price P lies beyond the equilibrium, let us say at P2, in that case, there is a quantity of demand and a quantity of supply as well. So we look at it and we find that the quantity of demand now is less at Q3 and the supply is excess at Q4. And therefore, the suppliers will find that supposing you are manufacturing ice cream, you have taken Q4 quantity of ice creams, you are unable to sell because the demand is only Q3. And therefore, you will produce less ice creams. And when you produce less ice creams, it will push the supply down. Obviously, the reason for that is simple. You find that you cannot sell your ice creams. Therefore, it pushes them down. When it pushes down, it moves towards the equilibrium. And it is only at the equilibrium price P, there will be one quantity Q, which will be both supply quantity and demand quantity because they overlap at that point. So they both will be same. And therefore, there will be a tendency to move towards equilibrium whenever there is a distortion and the supply is more or the demand is more or less as the case may be. So we can understand that if there is not enough ice creams, then we would like to manufacture more so that we meet the demand. And when there are excessive ice creams, obviously we will try to produce less so that whatever we produce sells. And that is the demand and supply analysis. That is the equilibrium. Okay. This is what we mean by equilibrium, and we try to tend towards equilibrium. We will be getting equilibrium in many cases wherever we want to have. And this is one of the invisible hands working which moves things towards the equilibrium. This is the algebraic solution to the same. You have the demand line. P is equal to 300 minus QD. This is the demand line. And based on this, you can have the equilibrium. And we have found that the equilibrium quantity is 80 and the price is 220. Where we have algebraic solution for the same thing. That was in the graph. This is in the algebra. The concept is the same. Now let us look at this. I want you all to study this carefully. Note it down.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I didn't get the graphical solution part.
You didn't get the graphical solution part?
Sir, that topic I didn't get much.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So I will explain it again. Please pay attention. Supposing I'm making ice creams. Okay, I am an ice cream manufacturer. And I sell the ice creams as well. Obviously, if I make the ice creams, I will make it to sell it, isn't it? There is no problem there?
No, sir.
So I make ice creams. And I make ice creams and price it at P1. As soon as I price it at P1, that is under my control. I can price it at any price, right? So I price it at P1 and I take it to the market and I find in the market that at P1, there is a demand, particular demand. Obviously, at that price, there will be a demand according to the demand line D. So when I price it, as soon as I price it at P1, I'm making quantity Q1. Because why do I make Q1? Because that is the supply curve, and only that much quantity can be made if the cost, because price and cost are related. So looking at the cost, only that much quantity can be made. That is why there is a supply line. And when I make that quantity, I find that the demand at that price is at Q2, which is higher than the supply. So when I find that I'm able to sell all the ice creams that I've made and there is still more demand, so obviously people will say, please bring more ice creams. So I will go back and I will manufacture more. When I manufacture more, I'll end up with a price P2 because I have manufactured more,
Yes.
which means that the price was pushed up due to demand. Demand being says, whenever there is more demand, price is
Yes.
naturally pushed up. We know that experience. So when the price is pushed up, it goes to P2. When it goes to P2, the supply, of course, increases to Q4, but the demand decreases to Q3 because the demand line is negatively sloped.
Yes.
And there's an inverse relationship with price. So as soon as the price increases, the demand decreases. When the demand decreases, all the ice creams that I had taken, I find that I cannot sell them all. I can only sell Q3 quantity. I am left over with Q4 minus Q3. So when I go back, I manufacture that much less.
Yes.
So tendency to now decrease the supply. So whenever, and this goes on till we reach an equilibrium, E, where the price and the supply, where the demand and the supply becomes equal, because the graphs cut each other at that point. So whatever I have made, I am able to sell. And there is no further demand also, because at that price, at least, there is no further demand. So that price, P, is known as the equilibrium price, P, and at that quantity, Q, is known as the equilibrium quantity. And that quantity is same for both demand and supply. So there is no difference this time. The difference is 0.
Okay, sir.
And therefore, at that, there will be no tendency to push it either way.
Yes. Neither the price, neither the quantity.
Neither the price, neither the quantity. Things will try to remain at, that is the meaning of equilibrium. At equilibrium, things remain as they are, balanced.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? You're welcome. So we move on to this. And I want you to note, and I want you to make a graph.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, can you
Yeah.
please repeat after that Q3 part when you said the demand line is a negative slope? I didn't get the part after that and the equilibrium part. Q3 one, I understood the Q1 part and the demand till there, and the P2 and the demand of the negative slope. What did you say? I cannot get that.
Because the demand is negatively sloped,
Yes, sir.
therefore, when the price goes to P2,
Yes, sir.
there is lesser demand
Yes, sir.
of ice cream, and the supply has increased because we have increased the supply, and the supply goes up to Q4. So Q4 is excessive supply. So when there is an excessive supply, I have gone with ice creams which are in excess quantity, and there is no demand, which means I will not be able to sell it. If I am not
Yes.
going to be able to sell it, I will definitely not manufacture more. I will manufacture less. I will go back and try to decrease my manufacturing quantity. So quantity supplied will be decreased. So there will be a tendency to move the level down. That is what is indicated by the down level. And
So
this,
what are that red lines showing? Two vertical
arrows.
red lines.
These two vertical red lines are, you are talking about the one with the arrow or without the arrow?
Without the arrow, sir.
They are showing how, when we try to calculate in the graph at P1, what will be the quantity. That is the red lines. They are trying to, at P1, the yellow line shows the level of the price and the red line shows the quantity level.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
from the graph we take, that is how graphs are interpreted and read.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So these red lines are indicative of the quantity,
Sure, sir.
where these yellow lines cut the supply and the demand lines. So from there, if you drop a 90 degrees, you will get the quantity. That is how we interpret the graphs. That is how it is made also. So you will have to make the graph now. I want you to make a graph with these quantities. So only one graph you have to make. You don't have to make two graphs or three graphs. Although on one graph, you will have three lines. First of all, you have to understand that you will have two axes, y-axis and x-axis. So all of you take out your pen and paper and start making the graph. Now, what will be there on the y-axis and what will be there on the x-axis? Anybody can tell me?
Sir, on y-axis we'll take price and on x-axis we'll take the quantity.
You will take the price on y-axis and quantity on?
So we'll take revenue on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis.
Okay, good. Why? Because we are dealing with
So total revenue and marginal
total revenue, marginal revenue, average revenue. And average revenue and price are the same. As you can see, price is equal to average revenue. So we can say either price or we can say average revenue, whatever you wish, you may say it. That will be, these three lines will have to be drawn on the graph. And the quantity will be the variable from 0 up to 9. So when this quantity varies, what happens to the average revenue, total revenue, and marginal revenue is what you will see reflected in the graph. Anybody has completed the graph? Please let me know. You don't need to make it very to scale, just a rough graph. You can put it on a paper, roughly draw the graph with approximate lines, no problem. Need not be very straight and perfect. And you need not use a graph paper as it is. We make a lot of freehand drawings in economics, and we will be doing it.
Sir, I'm done with the graph.
Okay, so you have done it. Very good. Now what
Yes,
you
sir.
can do is you can take a picture of that on your mobile and send it across to me on WhatsApp. So I can see exactly what you have done and I can tell you whether it is right or wrong. Okay.
Yes. Okay, sir. Sir, I'll send it to you.
Yes. And this is a perfect graph. This is exactly what you are supposed to get. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
So when you need to study this graph. When you study this graph, you will realize these truths. As you can see, when total is rising, the marginal is positive. So you see the marginal curve, and it is becoming negative at the point between 5 and 6, right? In your graph. And at that point only you will find that the total revenue curve is at the peak. It is rising all the time. It is positive. And after it becomes negative, the total revenue starts falling. So when total is falling, the marginal is negative. So as soon as it becomes negative, it starts falling. It's correct? I'm sure you are seeing your own graph as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are back. So you see the graph that you have made. I will just show the graph to the others as well. Somebody else has sent this graph. This is not correct. This is not the right graph. This is incorrect. This one is correct. This is the graph, which is the correct graph. Who has sent this? Please let us know your name.
Sir, Seval.
Hmm?
Seval.
Oh, Seval has sent it. Okay, fine. So this is the graph which is correct. The other graph that you saw, they have tried to make it the same graph that I had shown you for equilibrium purpose. Now, just see where the marginal becomes, as long as it is positive till this point. We find that the total revenue is rising, correct? At the point where it is negative, it is at the peak. And when it becomes negative, the total revenue starts decreasing. You can see all these features. Where the marginal revenue takes the lead, the average revenue reacts in a similar way. They are both same, but it reacts slightly later than the marginal. But it acts in the same way. It hits the negative here, it hits the negative here. And this is exactly what is the relationship and what has been explained here. So when we look at this, we will understand the relation between these. The total is rising, the marginal is positive. When the total is falling, the marginal becomes negative. When the total is maximum, marginal is. When the average falls, rises, the marginal also falls, rises, but at a faster rate. So this
Sir, I
is the
cannot see
relation.
the screen.
You cannot see the
Excuse
screen?
me, sir.
Yeah?
The graph is
So
not
I am
visible.
unable to see the screen. Are you sharing your screen?
Let me share it. Actually, there was a slight connection problem, because of which it may be that the screen is not shared. If it is not shared, I will share it. And then I will show it to you, no problem. Share the screen. This screen first I will share. Can you see the graph now?
Yes,
It
sir.
takes
Yes, sir.
a minute
It is
for
visible
the
now.
graph to be. It is visible now. So
Yes.
this is the graph that we are talking about. And you can see that there is a, this is the marginal revenue curve. This is the average revenue. This is the total revenue. So when the marginal revenue is falling, the total revenue is, when the marginal revenue is positive, and it is positive till this point, the average revenue, total revenue is increasing all the time, as long as it is positive. When it hits zero, the total revenue is maximum. When it becomes negative, the total revenue starts falling. When the average revenue and the marginal revenue, they are both having the same trend, only it is happening at a faster rate with marginal revenue than it is happening with the average revenue. They all hit the x-axis and become zero, but first it is the marginal revenue, and for average revenue it takes much longer time to happen. So it is both are in the same way, but average revenue reacts slightly later than the marginal revenue. So it happens first with the marginal revenue. So this is the interpretation that we see in the slide. So when we look at the slide, So this is the slide. When total is rising, marginal is positive. When total is falling, marginal is negative. When total is maximum, marginal is 0. When average falls and rises, the marginal also falls and rises, but at a faster rate. Is this clear? This is the relation between total, average, and marginal magnitudes. You study once and you apply it 3 times. Whether it is the production, whether it is the cost, whether it is the revenue, they behave in a similar way. And we will get the identical graphs. Okay. Any questions? Anything which is not clear? Please let me know. If it is clear, we will move ahead. Please tell me if it is clear. Anyone?
So it is clear.
Yes,
Great.
sir.
Great. Thank you. Now we understand the concept of margin. When we are talking now, and you have realized now how important the margin is, because that is the first indicator of how things are going to happen. And the importance where the marginal becomes 0, because that is where we get the optimal solution. So therefore, we have to understand the concept of margin, which is extremely important. So when we are talking about margin, we are talking about the small change delta.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So the slides are still not visible. It is still the graph which is, showing in the screen.
Okay. So I will have to just take care of that. I will show you the
Sir, you have muted yourself. We are unable to hear you now.
now you can hear me.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes.
can you see the no, not yet?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay. Now you will be able to see.
Yes, sir. Visible now. Thank you.
Great, great. I'm sorry for that small goof up. It keeps happening. Although now they have tried to control the control, but still sometimes it happens. Especially
It
when you are trying.
completely all right, sir. We can
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. Thank you. So these are the 4 points that we were talking about, and they are there in the slide. And this is what you have found it yourself when you make the graph. That is why I wanted you to make the graph. when you make the graph, you see the truth of this. Okay, and these are essential truths, and therefore you can always discover it and rediscover it yourself anytime. And we will be dealing with it multiple number of times. As I said, when we deal with production, we deal with the same thing, exactly the same graph. Of course, we call it at that time the quantity produced. And when you deal with the costs also, you make the same thing, of course, with revenue we have just seen. So now we understand and realize the importance of concept of margin. And we will be talking about the small change margin, delta. It is denoted by a small triangle also. And the formula for margin is very simple. Delta TR, total revenue, in case of revenue. In case of concept, it will become delta TC, total cost. In case of production, it will become delta TP, total production, divided by delta Q, which is the quantity. This is one formula of margin. Another formula is TRN minus TRN minus 1, where N is the quantity produced. So what we are trying to say is the quantity here becomes 1. So total production, total revenue generated from N production.
So,
Yeah.
sir, I'm not getting all this. Please explain it.
I'm
Okay.
explaining it. I'm in the process. I have not yet completed. So
Okay,
have patience and follow what is being said. And I think a good way would be to write down what I'm saying. If you write down what I'm saying, it will become more clear. So if you have a pen and paper in front of you, write down what I'm saying. Okay. So I'm giving you the formula for calculating margin. Okay. One formula for calculating margin is delta TR divided by delta Q, where delta TR stands for change in total revenue and delta Q stands for change in quantity. So if you do this, you will be able to calculate the margin. Okay, this is one formula. Another formula is TRN minus TRN minus 1, where TR is total revenue, N is the quantity of quantity, which is number of quantity, and N minus 1 is one quantity less, total revenue of one quantity less. For example, total revenue when I produce 100 bulbs, then TRN minus 1 would be total revenue you produce 99, less 1. So that is another formula, and these formulas are there to help us to calculate the value of margin at any given point. Okay, supposing we are to calculate margin. How will you calculate margin? How to calculate average, we all know. We divide the total revenue by the quantity, we get average. So similarly, we have to know the formula for calculating margin. So I am teaching you that, how to calculate the margin, because we will be calculating the margin. Now, to understand this, let us go back to the table and you try to apply the formula in the table. Now, can you see how average revenue is calculated? What is the total revenue? Total revenue is 9. You divide it by quantity, you get average revenue 9. Total revenue is 16. You divide it by quantity 2 and you get 8. That is your average revenue. Is this understood or is there any problem?
So please explain it
Sir,
second
we
formula.
won't. Sir,
Yeah?
we won't divide it by 2. Rather, we'll divide it by 1 because change in quantity is to be taken. Like 2 minus 1,
See,
1.
don't confuse. We are calculating average revenue right now, not marginal.
Okay. Sorry, sir.
So you look at the second column. The second column is average revenue. The third column is total revenue. The first column is quantity Q. So we are dividing TR by Q to get AR. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now it is clear. Now let us see how marginal revenue is calculated, which is in the fourth column. I have given you a formula TRN minus TRN minus 1. So obviously in the first, there is no minus 1, 0, less than 0, there is nothing. So we put a dash. But in the next one, we have total revenue 9 minus the total revenue of this one. So 9 minus 0 is 9. And in the next case, we have 16 minus 9 because 16 is the quantity, total revenue of n quantity, and n minus 1 quantity, the total revenue is 9. So we decrease from 16, 9, and we get 7. And similarly, from 21, we decrease 16 and we get 5.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, you are excused.
Sir, can
Don't
you-
say excuse me. Tell me what is your problem.
Sir, can you please explain it again? Actually, I
Yeah,
missed.
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Total revenue of n quantity n minus total revenue of n minus 1 quantity. So when I calculate, I look for the total revenue of that quantity. That quantity n is 2. So the total revenue at the level 2 is 16. If n is 2, n minus 1 will be 1. So I look for total revenue of at 1, which is 9. So TRN minus TRN minus 1. So 16 minus 9 is 7. So I have the marginal revenue at 7. Similarly, at 21, my N is 3. So TRN is 21. That is the total revenue at level 3. And N minus 1 is 2. So total revenue at 2 is 16. So from 21, I will subtract 16 and I will get 5. Another way of calculating is change in TR divided by change in quantity. So if I have to do that, what will I do? I will differentiate between 21 and 16 and 3 and 2. So that will also come to the same. So both formulas are applicable and true. We have established that. Is there any doubt now? I have explained it.
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fine. So now we understand how to calculate margins, which is very important, and we will be doing it quite often. Therefore, it is important that you understand how to do it. Okay? If it is not clear to anybody, we can explain again. Anyone can ask for it. If it is clear, we will move ahead. So we now try to understand why we are studying all these. We study all these because are applicable. We study in management, including marketing management. For example, sales law. What is sales law? Anybody knows? Does anybody know what is sales law? You are studying marketing, so you should be knowing it. It is the production concept of
Sales
marketing.
of Goods Act.
No, it's not Sales of Goods Act. That was a good attempt, but sales law is an economics law which finds its application in marketing when we teach the concept of production. The production concept. We have had several concepts in marketing, the sales concept, the production concept, the marketing concept, and of course, a relationship concept, holistic concepts. This will all be taught to you maybe. If you have not learnt yet, they will be taught in subsequent. There we study in production sales law, which says that supply creates its own demand. Whenever you supply something, the demand is created on its own.
Sir, could you please repeat the very last sentence?
Supply creates its own demand. This is sales law.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Then we have the concept of elasticity, which we study. Elasticity concept is very important because it tells us how and to what level things change and what should be changing and not changing. Elasticity also dictates whether we should put tax on certain items or not put tax. For example, if we look at various products, we will be able to establish through elasticity whether it should be taxed or not taxed, and what will be the consequence if you put tax on it. And that is the reason why the government is, without thinking, able to put taxes on cigarettes every time it creates a budget, because it knows that it will have no effect. Those who smoke will keep smoking irrespective of the amount of tax loaded on cigarettes. And that is coming from the concept of elasticity. Similarly, we have the concept of demand forecasting, which we will be studying. Demand forecasting is a very, very important concept where we study. Obviously, it is very convenient to everyone in the firm as well as outside if we can know what exactly is the quantity to be produced. And that is only possible if we are able to forecast the demand. Then we also have the concept of consumer behavior in economics, where we are able to understand how the consumers are going to behave and act, and accordingly
Sir, you have muted yourself.
Sir, you are on mute.
yeah, I'm now back. I'm sorry how this is happening. Probably because there is an option to mute all. So this is the concepts, the consumer behavior, the market analysis, and of course, externalities. When we study externalities, we will understand the importance of environment and how environment affects the economics of things. And this will be pretty useful when you study your environmental laws. And we will be studying these things. So the reason why we study economics is because of the various application in business, law, and other parts which we need to understand and study in general. So when we look at these, there are certain very, including even labor laws become very important. And of course, we will be seeing how those are in the coming classes. Okay. It is also very important for business decisions and economic analysis. So when we look at the firm's output, how much a firm is able to produce, what should be the level that a firm should produce? Obviously, that level is known as optimal level. And for that, economics becomes very useful. It tells us exactly how much there should be in the output. And of course, there is the consumer's optimal decision, where what the consumer should be doing. We will also study that, what he should be buying, how much he should be buying, and obviously how we can create a consumer surplus. We will see and study those things. Then the sales forecasting is again extremely important. When we forecast the sales, we help for the PPC also, production planning and control. We help the finance people also, because then they know exactly how much production is being made. So you can finance the right amount of capital so that it is not under capital or over capitalized, because both will lead to losses financially. And then of course, we have the desirable firm's objectives, which we have already seen a little bit. We'll see more. So objective of the firm is exactly also important, and that is done through the economics analysis. Then we look for the desirable market, where the market should be and is, and how. Then we also study the policy formulations. Policy formulations, they are made by the government, the RBI, and then of course we have the various strategies that we make. These strategies are very clear and the economic helps us to make these strategies so that we gain competitive edge over the competition. And we will be studying those as well. So that is what we will be covering today. If you have any questions, please ask.
So I want to see clarity on one point.